In a massive forest, a girl covered in blood was running for her life, screaming desperately for help. But then out of nowhere, a mysterious figure popped up and dragged her away without a trace. The story kicks off when 6 freshmen accidentally get lost deep in a dense forest, where the trees are so packed together that even sunlight can barely peek through. The crew includes Zein, the bravest and most level-headed girl of the group, along with Mia, Fanny, Jerome, Dave, and Matt. All 6 of them are trying to follow a weird map to find their way to a school with the creepy name Hell University. However, the further they go, the more Zein feels like something is off. The path seems to loop endlessly, and the surroundings don't show a single familiar sign. Even scarier, none of them can even remember where the map came from, nor do they know why they all trust it so much. The feeling of being lost doesn't just come from the forest, but also from their own fuzzy memories. After a long walk that felt like it would never end, the school gates finally show up right in front of them. Looking from the outside, the school looks ruined and gloomy, like a building that's been abandoned for decades. The tall iron gates are locked tight with a giant, heavy and cold padlock. While the group is still confused, a guy named Francisco, claiming to be the school guard, suddenly shows up. Hearing them explain that they are lost and just want to come in for some water, Francisco doesn't rush to open the gate but looks at them with an unreadable stare, then asks a loaded question. Are they really sure they want to step into this place? That question makes the vibe drop for a second, but since they have no other choice, they still decide to go in. The second all 6 of them step through the gates, the iron doors behind them immediately slam shut with a harsh sound, echoing across the empty courtyard. Zein mutters under her breath that some doors once closed will never open again, and if someone is lucky enough to escape, they won't be the same person anymore. Her gut feeling is like a dark prophecy. On the way to the office, Francisco coldly warns them that at exactly 7 p.m., everything in the school will totally change. That warning sends shivers down their spines, but when they realize they are locked inside the campus, they know it's too late to turn back. If they want to stay the night, they have to finish the enrollment process. At the same time, the scenery around them slowly turns into chaos. The older students start getting into brawls, even taking each other out like crazy. Blood spills on the courtyard floor as if it's completely normal. They later find out that these terrifying scenes are actually an everyday thing around here. When they are taken to meet Ms. Violet, the school principal, the group frantically asks about the mess outside, but she just casually tells them to mind their own business. With a terrifyingly calm tone, she explains that all room, board, and tuition fees here are totally free. In return, they have to follow a brutal rule. From 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. is a time frame called Free Night, or more accurately, Bloody Night. During that time, all extreme behaviors, including fighting or taking lives, are allowed. Hearing that, Zein immediately wants to leave this place. But that idea is crushed right as it starts when Francisco pulls out a knife, coldly forcing them to stay. The principal also stresses that here, you can't trust anyone, not even your best friends, and fear itself is what helps them survive longer. After getting their uniforms and room assignments, the whole group is shaking. As for Zein, being way too stressed, she goes out to sit alone in the pitch-black garden to calm down. The clock hits 6:30 p.m. There are only 30 minutes left until 0 hour begins. Suddenly, from a tree branch behind her, a guy wearing a creepy mask jumps down and sits next to her like he's been waiting forever. His body is covered in blood. When Zein nervously asks if he is hurt, the guy coldly replies that it isn't his blood. His voice is flat but full of hidden meaning when he says that sooner or later, she will have to take a life to save her own. He announces that today counts as her first day of school, so he is generously giving her 30 minutes to run away. After saying that, the guy throws a knife on the ground in front of Zein, then vanishes into the darkness, leaving her alone with the ticking sound of time counting down to the real hellish night. Zein is so scared that she runs back to tell her friends, but they just think the principal is only joking to spook them. Suddenly, the alarm bell rings. Bloody Night officially starts. A male student covered in blood runs up begging Zein's group to open the door and help, but because they are too terrified of the chasers behind him, they heartlessly slam the door shut to protect themselves. The next morning, as pale sunlight just covers the campus, the 6 freshmen immediately drag each other to the principal's office with the last hope of leaving this freaky place. They don't hide their panic anymore. Zeina speaks for the whole group, making it clear that they want to leave right away. But Ms. Violet just sits behind her desk, her eyes cold and calm as if all their reactions are exactly what she expected. She declares that stepping in here was their choice, but whether they get to leave or not isn't up to them to decide. Her tone is so absolute that it leaves zero room for any bargaining. Not only rejecting their request, she also demands the whole group go to class normally like all the other students. She brags that the teaching staff here are all top tier, getting paid fat paychecks to train people who are capable enough to survive in this brutal environment. The way she talks about the teachers and salaries sounds like she's promoting a prestigious academy, not a place where brutality is legalized every night. Leaving the office with heavy hearts, Zein, Mia, and Fanny go into the restroom to talk over an escape plan. They talk so quietly that they almost only dare to whisper, worried that the walls have ears. Right in the middle of that, an upperclassman girl walks in. She looks at them through the mirror with experienced eyes, then suddenly jumps into their conversation. Without beating around the bush, she gives them a piece of advice drawn from harsh reality. According to her, in this school, kindness is a luxury and a danger. If someone plans to harm you, the only way to save yourself is to strike first, even being so decisive that the enemy has no chance to fight back. Here, survival is the only currency, and everything else is just an illusion. When hearing Zein swear that her group will definitely find a way out, the girl just gives a mocking smirk. Her smile isn't just purely making fun. It looks like someone who once held on to hope and got it crushed without mercy. She claims that once you step into this place, there is no way out anymore. Not long after, a blood-curdling scream tears through the quiet air. Students from the classroom blocks rush out into the schoolyard. In the middle of the wide yard, a dead body lies exposed in a gruesome pose. The victim was taken out savagely, the body acting as a public warning. A nail is pinned right through their tongue, a chilling detail that makes many look away. The upperclassman girl coldly explains that this is the handiwork of the Black Blood gang. The nail is their signature mark. But the scariest thing of all is that the victim is the little brother of the leader of the Demon Gods Warriors gang, the other major power in the school. This move is no different from a blatant declaration of war. A bloody showdown between the two strongest gangs seems to just be a matter of time. Right when the vibe is as tense as a piano wire, a group of people marches into the yard with an overwhelming presence. Leading them is Craig, a famous and super powerful schoolboy. He yells, ordering the crowd to scatter right away. Craig's voice isn't too loud, but it's enough to make the whispering folks shut up instantly. The surrounding students quickly scatter in fear, nobody daring to stick around for another second. Only the 6 freshmen stand frozen, their eyes glued to Craig. They don't fully get his spot in the underground order of this school yet, but they can feel that he's no ordinary guy. After that mess, everyone is forced back to class like nothing ever happened. The teacher in charge enters the class later than usual, apologizing frantically to the students the second he walks in. However, before his apology even finishes, a female student named Nikki suddenly speaks up. With a totally defiant and bossy tone, she reminds him that RMO, the name that makes the whole class slightly change color, absolutely hates latecomers the most. That sentence isn't just a simple heads up, but also like a test. In that seemingly normal classroom, even the teacher can become a target for threats. And once again, the 6 freshmen realize that the rules here don't play by any standards they've ever known. Sitting in class, Zein can't help but feel clueless. She has no idea who Nikki is to dare talk to the teacher with such a bold attitude. It's even more confusing when the name Ryumo being dropped just makes the vibe in the room freeze up for a moment. Just one name is enough to make the teacher turn pale, quickly bowing his head to apologize to Nikki before hurrying to start the lesson, as if he's terrified that delaying another second will make him pay the price. Throughout the period, Nikki pays zero attention to the lesson. She sits leaning over, her cold and dagger-like gaze glued tight to Zein. That look isn't just sizing her up, but it's also packed with a hidden warning. Finally, Nikki speaks up, her voice low but loud enough for Zein to hear clearly, asking if she already knows everything, right? Zein gets annoyed instantly, telling Nikki to back off. But instead of backing down, Nikki suddenly grabs her chin, squeezing it so hard that Zein is forced to look up and face her. Nikki lowers her voice, threatening that curiosity will kill her, and if she wants to survive, she better shut her mouth and stick to the rules of this place. Nikki even boldly claims herself as a big sister in the school, swearing that up till now, no one has ever dared to talk back to her like Zein just did. After class, while Mia, Fanny, Jerome, Dave, and Matt are frantically looking for Zein because they don't see her heading back with them, Zein is quietly tailing Nikki down an empty hallway. She believes Nikki knows something major, and if she wants to stay alive, she needs more info than just some vague warnings. But Zein totally underestimated her target. Before she can even take another step, she feels a cold breath right on the back of her neck. Nikki pops up from behind like a ghost, pressing right up against her back. A freezing metal pin is suddenly pressed against Zein's throat. Nikki whispers that she has taken the lives of a lot of fools just like Zein. Her voice is flat as if she's bringing up a regular habit. Right when the vibe is so tense you can't even breathe, another wave of pressure suddenly rolls in. Craig shows up at the end of the hallway. His face is cold, his sharp eyes carrying an invisible cruelty that makes even Nikki back off. He walks up, asking Zein why she isn't back in her room but wandering around during curfew. Zein, being stubborn and refusing to bow down, immediately snaps back that she has the right to go wherever she wants. The second that comeback drops, Craig grabs her wrist tight. The grip is so strong that Zein clearly feels a sharp pain shooting up her arm, her skin bruising fast. He warns her that this is only her first strike, and if she slips up again, he will break her arm without a second thought. Right in that exact moment, Zein finally gets it. Craig isn't just some guy with a loud voice in the school. He is actually RMO, the school boss name that makes teachers bow their heads, terrifies the students, and makes the whole vibe around here run on a cold underground order. Fast forward to physics class, the teacher sees the bruise on Zein's arm and instantly knows it's RMO's handiwork, so she advises her it's best to steer clear of him if she wants to keep her life. Meanwhile, at the student council meeting, Craig, aka Remo, starts keeping tabs on Zein because he sees this girl is way too gutsy and isn't scared of the rules. He orders his boys to watch her closely to see how long it takes for Zein to break. With only 40 minutes left until 0 hour, Zein still refuses to head back to the dorms because she wants to dig up the truth about this freaky school. She drags Matt along with her. When the warning bell rings, Bloody Night officially kicks off. The whole school is a mess. Killers holding knives and weapons go hunting everywhere. Zein and Matt get cornered, surrounded by the Black Nail crew. In the middle of the brawl, Matt gets a nail driven deep into his leg. This is the exact creepy signature of this gang when they make a move. The two of them have to hide out like rats in a dumpster to get away. Just as they crawl out planning to make a run for the dorms, Matt passes out because that nail is poisoned. As the members of Black Nail get ready to rush in and land a finishing blow on Zein and Matt, the vibe suddenly flips. Out of the dark, a masked figure slowly steps out. Nobody can see his face clearly, only the ice-cold eyes hiding behind the emotionless mask. He is in no rush and he doesn't even pull out a weapon. He just simply drops his deep voice, starting to count 1, 2, 3. The counting sounds steady but packs a massive amount of pressure. The killer squad that was just so aggressive a second ago now turns pale in a flash. Without a single word of pushback, they back up and then scatter like they just saw something even scarier than hell itself. The mystery guy bends down, throws Matt over his shoulder like his weight is nothing, and signals for Zein to tag along. He brings both of them all the way back to the dorms, making sure nobody is tailing them. Before taking off, he coldly says that if her friend is tough enough, he'll live, because the nail stuck in Matt's leg is laced with poison. Finishing his words, that masked figure vanishes so fast that Zein almost doubts if she just saw a hallucination. After shaking off the chase from the Black Nail Gang, also known as the Black Blood Gang, Matt doesn't hesitate and pulls the nail out of his own leg. The pain almost makes him pass out, but what shocks the whole crew even more is the poison soaked on the head of the nail. The wound isn't just a simple attack, it's a carefully prepared death sentence. Worried sick about Matt, Zein decided to stay at the dorm to take care of him, accepting skipping class even though she knew it might attract attention. The rest of the crew had to go to class like normal to avoid suspicion, while trying to act like everything was still under control. In class, news about the masked guy spread like wildfire. Students were whispering and calling him the god of hell. Some folks thought he was the big boss behind the killer gangs in the school, while others believed he was his own separate power, living outside all the rules. The thing that confused everyone the most was if he was really as ruthless and powerful as the rumor said. Why did he step up to save Zein and Matt? Nobody had an answer. But for the friend group, one thing was slowly becoming clear. If they wanted to survive and leave this devil's den, they couldn't just keep hiding. They had to dig up the truth behind the school and the powers controlling it. Right when the vibe was still reeking of blood, the teacher suddenly announced that this coming Friday, the school would throw a welcome party, an annual event for the students. That announcement made the whole class go dead silent for a few seconds, and then they started buzzing. A female student named Celine stood up shaking. Her voice cracked with fear as she protested that they shouldn't be throwing a party right now, when the blood wasn't even dry on the schoolyard and threats were still lingering around them. But in this school, it seemed like human lives were never a big enough reason to stop a tradition. But the teacher coldly brushed it off, confirming this was the principal's order and Craig himself would be stepping up to run the whole party. Showing up was mandatory. Nobody was allowed to be absent. At other colleges, hearing about a party would make students cheer. But here, from freshmen to seniors, everyone's face turned pale as a ghost. They knew damn well that the so-called party in this place was actually just a joyride full of danger. After class, Zein's crew gathered at the cafeteria to talk over an escape plan. They dug up the map again, trying to find the exit they used to come in during enrollment. But something super creepy happened. The road leading into the school had vanished without a trace on the map. Zein realized that to get out of here they couldn't just run blind, but they had to know the roots of this school, who built it and who was really running it. She decided to go to Celine, the one who seemed to know a ton of secrets. At first, Celine was shaking so hard she could barely stand when Zein asked to talk in private. Her eyes kept darting around like she was scared someone was watching. But after hesitating for a bit, she finally agreed to lead Zein to an abandoned building deep inside the campus, a place few people visited and quiet enough to say things that shouldn't be heard. Before stepping inside, Celine stopped, looked right at Zein, and warned her that before her, there were quite a few brave people who wanted to dig up the truth behind this school. But once they found out, some chose to stay quiet and give up, while others lost their lives mysteriously. Celine asked if Zein was really sure she wanted to hear it, because once she knew, there would be no turning back. Zein didn't hesitate at all. She gave a firm nod. Celine took a deep breath and started telling the story. She said that back in the day, this place didn't have the name Hell University at all. It used to be Philippine High University, a prestigious and famous school. But everything changed when the founder, Dr. Quizon, showed his true colors. According to Celine, Dr. Quizon used to be a renowned scientist, praised for his breakthrough projects. However, he slowly got obsessed with the idea of creating a drug that could give humans immortality, or even reverse aging. That ambition made him cross all moral lines. The students in the school became test subjects for his crazy research. Failures followed failures, and the school slowly got totally isolated from the outside world. Nobody was allowed to leave. In that lockdown environment, to survive, the students were forced to take each other out. From there, bloodthirsty gangs were formed, including the God of Hell and the Black Blood Gang, powers that controlled the order with incredibly brutal actions. The creepiest thing Zein revealed was that Dr. Quizon lost his life before he could successfully test the drug on himself. However, there was another student who drank it. And that person, according to rumors, is still alive to this day, existing somewhere in this school. Reaching this part, Zein suddenly let out a freakish laugh. She said that once Zein knew this secret, she shouldn't even dream of leaving this place. Right at that moment, Cole stepped out from the shadows. He warned that Zein only knew half the truth, and digging deeper meant putting herself right in the crosshairs of fate's borderline. Heading back to reunite with her friend group, Zein shared what she knew. After putting the info together, the whole crew found out an important rule. To leave the school, they had to make it into the top 10 best students. Right now, the number 1 spot belonged to Reyes, the boss of the God of Hell. Number 2 was Craig, also known as Remo. And number 3 was Nazar, the leader of the Black Blood Gang. While Craig was handling a brawl between the factions, the principal showed up and announced some shocking news that this coming Friday would be a bloodless night. All acts of taking human lives were strictly banned, and anyone breaking the rule would be dealt with instantly. Craig coldly declared he wouldn't attend the party, but his eyes would be everywhere to keep watch. Right after that, Craig fired his secretary Fritzy because he thought she was too weak. He publicly posted a job for a new secretary with a brutal requirement. They had to be brave enough to beat their decided fate. Zein happened to read this notice. Fritzy saw her, and feeling insulted made her go crazy. She rushed in to attack Zein, grabbing her hair and smashing her head against the wall without holding back. Blood ran down Zain's face, dyeing the floor tiles red. Fritzy's boyfriend, the vice president of the student council, who was also Craig's close right-hand man, was getting ready to throw a final deciding blow when Craig showed up. He grabbed his hand in midair, his eyes sharp and cold like bullets pinning right into the opponent. Without needing to say much, that look was enough to send the message that if he just touched Zein one more time, the price to pay would be his life. Craig got furious and immediately chased all the lackeys away. Because she lost too much blood, Zein wobbled and then passed out right in his arms. In her daze, she whispered for him to just end her already. But Craig replied with a bossy tone that losing her life wouldn't be that easy. She had to get better so he could keep making moves, and that she was a perfect fit to be his secretary. He carried Zein to the clinic, ordering the nurse to treat her carefully, not letting a single scar remain on his secretary's body. When Zein woke up, her friend group surrounded her with faces that were both worried and shocked. The whole school was buzzing about the big boss Craig publicly protecting her. Not long after, the vice president himself came running in a panic, dropping to his knees at Zein's feet to beg for her forgiveness, because he was terrified Craig would take his life. Zein stared at him for a long time, her eyes so cold it made him not dare to look up. Finally, she declared she would let him off the hook this time, but from now on, he better not let her see his face again. The whole friend group, especially Matt, froze up for a few seconds. They couldn't believe a guy who used to breathe fire like the vice president had to lower himself to beg a freshman. And in that moment, they realized Zein's status in this hellish school had started to change. The day of the party finally arrived. For the first time since entering the school, everything looked strangely peaceful and cheerful. The famous gangs started showing up, led by the boss of the Black Blood Gang. That girl Fritzy, the fired ex-secretary, got on stage to give a speech but didn't forget to take a shot, mocking Zein's crew in front of everyone. The surprises didn't stop there. When the school board showed up, Zein's crew almost fell over backwards. It turned out the guy who led them into the school on the first day, the one the whole gang thought was just the security guard uncle or the gatekeeper, was actually a high-ranking member of the admin board of this hellish school. The principal spoke up to welcome everyone, and right at the most unexpected moment, CEO Craig showed up looking super badass, even though he previously claimed he wouldn't attend. The vice president walked up to congratulate Zein, announcing that she had officially become Craig's secretary. This meant that Zein automatically jumped up to the 9th spot in the school's power ranking board. Her friends were thrilled hearing this because at least Zein had some backup, but Matt alone was extremely worried. He advised Zein not to accept this position because it was way too dangerous. Zein was in a state of ultimate stress at this moment. She took a glass of water from Dave's hand, tilting her head back to chug it all down like she wanted to borrow a bit of the coldness to calm her racing heartbeat. Right then, the leader of the Black Blood Gang slowly walked closer. His eyes were cold, and his low, heavy voice sounded like it was covered in the smell of gunpowder. He warned her that luck wouldn't follow her forever, that right now Craig might be able to protect her, but nobody could shield her for her whole life. After saying that, he threw her a knife, telling her to take it and defend herself. Before he even finished talking, Zein felt her head spinning, her vision getting blurry. The dizziness hit so fast it made her stumble. Almost at the exact same time, Dave also collapsed onto the floor, totally passed out. Right then, everybody finally realized that all the drinks at the party had been poisoned. Zein collapsed onto the floor. At this devilish school, seeing someone in trouble, nobody helped. Instead, they just stood around laughing and making fun of them. Matt ran out in a panic. Seeing Zein lying motionless, he started screaming frantically to find someone to help. The lively vibe of the party suddenly shattered when Dave suddenly ran out of energy and collapsed onto the floor. The friend group quickly spotted the deadly common thread. Both Dave and Zein had drank the exact same type of drink, meaning someone definitely snuck poison into it. Matt dashed off in a panic to find Zein, only to be shocked to discover she was already lying motionless on the floor since who knows when. In the middle of that chaotic scene, the principal showed up, but with an attitude so cold it gave people the creeps. Instead of worrying about the students, she casually told everyone to keep the party going, treating human lives like some minor accidents not worth ruining the mood over. This inhumane attitude made Zein's friends just stare at her with eyes boiling with anger. Over at the clinic, the situation got critical. The nurse confirmed that this poison was extremely strong. While Dave slowly got stable, Zein's body reacted violently, her life getting wrecked quickly even though she drank very little. Right at the most hopeless moment because the doctor couldn't make it in time, a masked mystery person threw a medicine bottle with an instruction note through the window. Even though he suspected it was a trap, Matt had to risk it and gamble his friend's life because there was no other choice. Meanwhile at the party hall, Craig, the student council president, felt too bored, so he planned to head home. When he was stopped by the principal trying to cover up the incident, Craig didn't hesitate to mock the fake morality of this school, then coldly walked away, not giving a damn about the person in charge. Back at the clinic, even though Dave had woken up, Zein was still in a deep coma. Suddenly, a strange girl barged in. She claimed she came to help, but then pulled out a knife and slashed a straight cut into Zein's body. After that confusing move and forcing Zein to drink another dose of weird medicine, she vanished as fast as a ghost. But weirdly enough, that freaky method actually worked, pulling Zein back from the borderline of fate instantly. The next morning, Zein and Dave showing up at school safe and sound made everyone's eyes pop out of their heads. During class, Mr. DiMattalo gave a short announcement that the student named Nikki had dropped out. The most noticeable thing was the moment Celine approached Zein, dropping a haunting warning not to rush into trusting anyone, even her best friends, because the real enemy was hiding right in plain sight without her even knowing. The peak of the tension was when Zein caught sight of a schoolgirl covered in blood running away in a panic. She chased after her into the restroom, but it was too late. That girl had lost her life tragically, her tongue sticking out with a freakishly deformed face right in broad daylight, creating an incredibly terrifying scene. It didn't stop there. Craig immediately called Zein up to the student council office. Here, he used his power to force her into the secretary seat, confirming this was an order, not a suggestion. He lured her by saying this position would open the door to the deepest, darkest secrets of the school that normal folks were never allowed to know. Even more suspicious, Craig suddenly acted unusually caring and repeated the exact same warning Celine gave earlier, hinting that the real enemy was hiding right next to her. The most unexpected plot twist came from Mr. DiMattalo. He secretly revealed to Zein his true identity as an undercover agent blending into the school. He let her know there was an underground lab making an antidote and begged Zein to accept being Craig's minion. The goal was for her to use that position to gather info and find a way to help everyone escape this hell. Carrying a huge responsibility and doubts, Zein decided to keep everything a secret, even from her close friend group. When she was looking for documents in the library, Matt showed up and swore to protect her at all costs. Ironically, this whole romantic scene fell right into the sights of Craig, who was hiding behind a bookshelf, making his face clearly show a jealous and annoyed look. The next morning, Zein officially went to meet Craig to take on her duties. Putting on the new uniform along with the powerful Rank 9 badge, she had a complete makeover that left Craig stunned, unable to take his eyes off her sharp beauty. Zein now walked super coldly next to Craig. She ignored her old best friends like they were total strangers, and even bossily ordered other students to step aside and make way, clearly flexing her status as a superior. Craig dragged Zein straight to the secretary's office, where Craig was already waiting along with Anil and Miss Kath. The second they walked in, Craig flexed his power to put Fritzy in her place, kicking her out of the secretary chair instantly. Seeing that, Miss Kath was about to speak up to defend her, but got yelled at by Craig right away. He harshly warned Fritzy to get out of his sight, while strictly banning her from ever putting on the secretary uniform again. Holding a massive grudge with nowhere to vent, Fritzy had to leave in a huff, but she still on purpose bumped hard into Zein so it actually hurt just out of spite. After dealing with the thorn in his side, Craig boldly announced in front of everyone that Zein was officially the new secretary of HU, meaning they all had to respect her just like they respected him. Craig also bluntly said that Zein was now sitting pretty in the top 9, among the top 10 highest-ranked people, even on the same level as the teachers. Because of that, according to Craig's rules, everyone was forced to bow their heads and show her respect. That meant Zein now belonged to the group of students holding almost absolute power. To survive and protect her close friends, The ultimate goal of Zein's crew was to squeeze their way into that list. And then an unexpected chance popped up. With this secretary seat, she automatically stepped into the most powerful ranks in the school. After taking the job, Craig gave Zein one single and super unreasonable task. She had to stick to him like glue, or else she had to be on standby at the office. Zein got frustrated and was about to refuse, but she just got a totally mysterious smile from Craig, forcing her to swallow her pride and deal with it. In music class, Zein showed up late and even had a goldfish brain, forgetting to bring her sheet music. Seeing the pretty girl confused, Nazar, who also went by the alias Lumia, stepped up and asked the teacher for permission to let her share his materials. Meanwhile, in another turn of events, Fritzy was crying her eyes out to Ms. Kath about getting her job snatched away. Ms. Kath then came up with a plan, advising her to just lay low and patiently wait for the right moment to see if Zein showed any weak spots, so she could ride the wave and drag her down. Back to music practice, Zein was fumbling around and still couldn't strum a decent guitar sound when Nazar stepped up again to lend a hand. Seeing the guy save the day for someone else 2 times in a row, Zein honestly praised him for being a good person. But before her smile could even fade, Zein got startled and jumped to her feet when she heard Nazar say his name. She was shocked to realize that the guy standing right in front of her was actually the notorious leader of the Black Blood Gang. Seeing Zein panicking, Nazar showed his true colors, coldly putting her in her place by saying she should never trust looks, because once the mask drops, humans can sometimes be way scarier than actual demons. He gripped Zein tight, threatening that even if she was a big shot sitting in the top 9, her little life was still hanging by a thread, unless she agreed to submit to his side. With her tough nature, Zein declared she'd rather lose her life than ever bow her head. Seeing that, Nazar just smirked, figuring that letting her kick the bucket right now would be a huge waste because he could still use her in the future. Right as the threat ended, a bunch of schoolboys came out of nowhere and jumped Nazar just for the crime of daring to hit on the girlfriend of a big boss in the school. Seeing this unfair scene, Zein was about to rush in and stop it, but a red-haired guy stopped her just in time. He super rationally analyzed that Nazar wasn't on their side, so there was no reason to step in and save him, plus that aggressive bunch of boys would sooner or later meet the same game over ending anyway. At lunch break in the cafeteria, when Zein was getting ready to fill her starving stomach with her girls, Craig suddenly loomed over and forced her to follow him immediately. Her bestie Mia got annoyed and spoke up to protest because Zein hadn't even swallowed a bite of food yet, but Craig still kept his ice-cold attitude. The bossy guy declared that Zein was now his personal secretary, and without Craig's permission, she had no right to hang out or talk to anyone else. While walking down the hallway, an incident happened. A male student accidentally spilled soda on Craig's uniform. Needless to say, the guy with a face as cold as cash pulled out his black book, wrote the boy's name down, and dragged him straight to the dark hell prison. At this deep dark place, Craig finally dropped a massive secret. That unlucky guy was actually the killer who brutally took Grace's life, the poor girl whose tragic passing Zein had witnessed with her own eyes. Craig throwing him in jail was the exact right punishment. At this point, Anil spoke up to explain things so Zein would fully get the whole picture. He told her this was how they kept the school's rules intact, because if Craig's crew didn't punish him directly, that killer would definitely get torn apart by others in a way 100,000 times more savage. This intense and dark chain of events made Zein get extremely curious about the roots of HU. Chatting up a female student named Jane, she finally figured out that in the past, this place used to be a super peaceful environment under the leadership of a girl named Samantha. But things changed, and the very people who used to thump their chests calling themselves the Protectors had now gone corrupt, turning into the most dictatorial and brutal ruling powers. In another turn of events, Fanny was up to her neck in homework when luckily, a guy named Liam showed up to bail her out. Smoothly winning the pretty girl over, Liam then invited Zein out to eat. Since she innocently thought she had to open her own wallet to pay, she awkwardly ordered a bunch of super expensive fancy dishes. When Liam burst out laughing and spilled that the food here was totally free, Zain's face turned beet red with embarrassment. Thanks to this cute embarrassing moment, the two of them got closer. But life ain't a dream, and drama struck again when the girlfriend of the big boss Ray Salvinia started pulling some annoying tricks. She purposely broke a glass and then whined to pin the blame on Zain's crew, pushing the vibe to a point as tense as a piano wire. Right in the heat of the moment, a terrifying incident happened. A dead body from out of nowhere was thrown straight down to the scene. The nosy crowd immediately gathered around, buzzing with gossip. At this time, Miss Kath also quickly showed up, but unlike the panic of the students, her attitude was chillingly cold. Instead of investigating, she just bossily ordered them to clear the body out of sight right away. Seeing that heartlessness, Mia got pissed and questioned if the school was really planning to just turn a blind eye to it. In response, the teacher casually dropped a flat, sarcastic line, saying the only thing she could do right now was nothing at all, and then she smoothly walked away, leaving the whole group dumbfounded. When the crowd had mostly scattered, Zain's eagle eyes accidentally locked onto the blood trails leaking from the corpse. Piecing things together, her gut told her this was one of those cocky schoolboys who ganged up to jump Nazar earlier. Her detective mode kicking in, Zein followed that creepy blood trail deep into a dark area. The gloomy, dead-quiet vibe mixed with a few rustling sounds in the dark made Zein start getting goosebumps. After cautiously asking whoever was hiding in the shadows to show themselves for a bit, she found a schoolboy curled up in pure panic. Even though Zein tried to use soft words to calm him down and coax him to come out, the guy kept mumbling denials, begging her to believe him. But the second he poked his face out, Zein froze in shock when she saw him gripping a razor-sharp knife in his hand. This crazy guy was shivering and screaming that he was innocent, while charging straight at Zein like a blood-drunk beast. Quick as a flash, Zein used all her might to shove him down and then booked it. The madman didn't let up, just carrying the knife and chasing her closely, his mouth non-stop yelling out her number 9 label. Finally, he cornered Zein against the wall, swinging the knife and barely missing, stabbing it straight into the rock wall right next to her face, his eyes bulging crazily, forcing her to believe he did nothing wrong. Right when her life was hanging by a thread, another male student popped up from behind and saved the day. This guy spoke up, confirming he believed his buddy, then calmly turned to apologize to Zein, hoping she'd let it slide because his friend's nerves weren't exactly normal right now. Recognizing these were 2 guys from the same gang at the cafeteria earlier, Zein pressed them to find out who had taken the life of their mutual friend. The newcomer coldly threw a wet blanket on her, explaining the brutal rule of survival at this school. Once you're targeted by the gangs, don't even dream of breaking free. In this hellhole, the only way to keep your life is to take someone else's life with your own hands. Right when the explanation ended, a shocking plot twist went down. Without even blinking, he coldly swung his knife and took the life of his own panicked best friend, right in front of Zein's horrified eyes. Even though she screamed to stop him, everything happened way too fast. What's more, the cruel killer even calmly held out the knife, pushing Zein to do the same thing. Way too disgusted by this sight, she knocked the knife away and ran for her life. After running for a bit, Zein stopped to take a sip of water to cool down, but the consequences hit instantly. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed harshly. A person dropped from high up straight to the ground right in front of her. What made Zein's jaw drop was that it was the exact same cold-hearted schoolboy who had just committed that serious act against his friend a few minutes ago. The next morning at the office, the wicked Ms. Kath was already sitting pretty waiting for her. She kept throwing shade, mocking Zein for being too nosy and wasting time chasing after dead bodies. She also threatened that with this kind of attitude, she shouldn't even dream of surviving long at HU. But Zein wasn't a pushover. She immediately clapped back so hard it left the teacher speechless, unable to argue back a single word. Right at that moment, the buddy Anil walked in carrying a chilling report. Early this morning, the school had 2 more folks wiped out, and the victims were Paolo and Jace. Tab 6. In the student council office, Craig, Zein, and the squad of assistants are stressing out over the constant murders happening way out of control during Bloody Night. This makes the student council's rep hit rock bottom. Facing this mess, Craig strictly orders everyone to step up and keep a much tighter watch on the students. Right in the heat of the moment, Zein openly shows a totally defiant attitude. She casually walks over to grab a drink with a careless look, completely ignoring Craig's authority. Getting disrespected right to his face, Craig aggressively steps up, sarcastically asking if he needs to delay this whole important meeting just to make room for her to go grab lunch. Clapping back at that attack, Zein bluntly calls Craig out, reminding him to stop being so dramatic, because he isn't the only one here who knows how to worry about the people who lost their lives. Triggered by Zein's bossy attitude, Craig grabs her arm tight when she is about to leave and threatens her with a low voice. But Zein is no pushover. She yanks her arm away and declares that everything she said is the absolute truth. Unable to swallow his anger, Craig instantly uses official business to get personal payback. He orders an assistant to bring out a massive, thick pile of the principal's documents, then punishes Zein by making her go print the whole thing and bring it all the way up to his room. However, Craig doesn't expect that this punishment is exactly what Zein wants, because she is just hoping for an excuse to escape this toxic vibe for a bit. Right when Zein is out of sight, Fritzy steps closer to Craig, throwing shade and wondering why he punished Zein so lightly compared to the disrespectful mess she just caused. Opposite to Fritzy's expectations, Craig instantly shuts her down cold. He coldly reminds Fritzy that she got kicked out of the student council, so she has no right to step in or judge his business. Fritzy has to swallow her bitter pride and apologize. Craig also spills that in the current situation, they need to use every pawn they have, even a stubborn one like Zein. In another turn of events, Zein is struggling with the pile of paperwork alongside the student council vice president, Onal. This guy starts gaslighting her, hinting that the evil god Superprimo, which is Craig's nickname, is going easy on her, because normally folks who dare to cross him end up with tragic fates, not just cleaning up trash like this. He warns Zein that getting close to Superprimo is no different from pushing herself right into danger. Seeing Zein still acting careless and joking around, Onal keeps threatening her about punishments even more terrifying than the hell prison, things that could become nightmares haunting her every single night. Starting to get the chills, Zein tells him to shut his mouth, then grabs the documents and walks away. But trouble still isn't letting Zein off the hook. Right as she steps outside, she gets blocked and picked on by Roxanne, Ray's bossy girlfriend. Acting all high and mighty, Roxanne calls herself the queen and mocks Zein as just the newly hired maid of the student council. Getting completely ignored by Zein, Roxanne gets pissed, pushes her down, and straight up gives Zein a stinging blow right in front of the whole crowd. However, Roxanne messed with the wrong girl. Zein stands up, calmly roasting Roxanne's recent physical attack for being way too weak, only worth 55 degrees. And to teach her a lesson, Zein swings her arm and returns a super powerful 180-degree blow that sends Roxanne sprawling on the ground. Leaving that chick screaming for revenge behind, Zein walks away looking like a total badass. Zein's next stop is the principal's office. Here, the principal sees Zein paying attention to her old school photos, so she tells her a story from the past. She admits she used to be a normal student, sucking it up and letting people walk all over her. But because of her greed for power, she stepped on other people to climb up to the ruling spot of this school. Using that story, she drops a hidden threat about the stormy future waiting for a new secretary like Zein. Looking right into her determined eyes, the principal admits Zein reminds her of Samantha, the legendary figure who once brought peace to this place. The second she steps out of the principal's door, Zein gets blocked by Fanny, who wants to vent her anger. Fanny harshly trashes Zein for her impulsive habits, claiming that her getting into a brawl with Roxanne is a selfish move that directly drags the whole friend group into the bully's crosshairs. Even though Zein tries to clear things up by saying she was just defending herself, Fanny brushes it off. She angrily advises Zein to stop causing trouble and focus on grinding their ranks so the whole crew can escape this hellish school soon, then turns her back and walks away. On the flip side, when Zein is sitting with her friend group, Fritzy shows up to pass along a summon order from Craig. On Zane's way to meet Craig, Matt hurriedly tags along with a face full of worry. Matt fearfully confesses that he feels Zein is slowly changing ever since she started hanging around Craig, and he's scared one day she will forget about him. Zein has to softly calm Matt down, swearing that her feelings haven't changed at all, and her relationship with Craig is purely just business. Right as Matt finishes speaking, Craig walks out. Seeing the two of them getting all cozy together, Craig's face drops like a rock. He instantly calls Zein into a private room to question her about the loud brawl with Roxanne. Instead of admitting she's wrong, Zein stubbornly claps back, stating that Roxanne was the one who sparked it first, and she won't stop until she pays that debt back in full. Hearing that, Craig raises his voice and threatens that Roxanne is an untouchable queen in this school, while Zein is just some nameless lowly secretary. Even though his mouth is yelling, Craig's eyes and attitude clearly show he is worried for her safety, not just purely angry. Even so, Zein still keeps her careless attitude, bluntly declaring that no matter who dares to touch her, whether it's a queen or the evil god Super Primo himself, she is ready to fight to the very end. Rendered speechless by Zein's stubbornness, Craig has to use his power to force her to take a punishment, cleaning up the whole massive and filthy cafeteria all by herself for an entire week, under his direct supervision. Even though she is choking on her anger, Zein still has to bite her lip and accept it, then storms off in a huff. In the classroom, Ms. Aya is passionately teaching a lesson about hope and faith. In the class right now, there is a male student named Laika. Watching the way the two of them interact, Zein sharply notices an incredibly warm vibe. She vaguely guesses that Laika is Ms. Aya's favorite student, because between them exists an invisible and tight bond, a rare kind of affection that seems impossible to exist in this cold school. But right after class ends, the storm hits again. A mysterious schoolgirl named Celine suddenly blocks Zein's path and drops a chilling warning. Zein is being betrayed by one of her own friends. The hunting squad has started making moves, and they won't let her keep her life. This announcement makes Zein stand frozen in silence. Before she can even digest the info, Celine turns her back and vanishes out of sight. At the cafeteria, Zein is scrubbing away when Craig keeps hovering around with a hesitant look, like he wants to start a conversation but doesn't know how to open up without looking lame. Finally, the guy uses the excuse of asking about her family. Hitting her favorite topic, Zein passionately talks about her gentle, hardworking mom and her talented older sister, proudly claiming that the two sisters have never known how to be scared of anyone. Listening to Zein talk, Craig's eyes shine with admiration, his lips unconsciously forming a totally lovesick smile without even trying to hide it. Riding the wave, Craig uses another excuse, saying his job doesn't let him interact much with students, just to coax Zein into talking about her close friend group. Zein happily describes Mia as a warm ray of sunshine, the duo Dave and Jerome as the kings of comedy, and Fanny as the bravest warrior of the team who is ready to risk it all for her friends. However, right when he hears Zein mention the name Matt, the smile on Craig's lips dies instantly, his face clearly showing a super intense jealous look. When Zein asks him back about his family, Craig dodges the question right away. He drops a vague hint that his family is a total mess, the complete opposite of her peaceful one, and then promises to tell her some other time. After saying that, he lets Zein take a break and go home, watching her back and smiling with a lot of hidden meaning. Zein's trip back to the dorm is definitely not smooth sailing, as she gets ambushed and kidnapped by a bunch of students aiming to take her out. At this point, the ringleader wearing Ray's face steps out. He straight up physically attacks Zein and drops a threat that he will take the lives of both her and her friend group. Instead of trembling in fear, Zein sharply flips the script. She confidently offers a deal. Let her go, and she will keep his massive secret hidden. While this guy is still stubbornly denying it, Zein bluntly exposes the fact that he is just a fake. She threatens that if this reaches the real Ray's ears, he will definitely get wiped out for the crime of faking his identity to bully other people. Zein confirms she has faced the real Rays before, and his terrifying aura is something this knockoff couldn't copy, even if he practiced for a dozen lifetimes. Getting hit right in his weak spot, the fake guy breaks a sweat and has to accept the deal. But the drama doesn't stop there. Before holding her head high and walking away, Zein doesn't forget to turn around and swing her hand to gift the fake guy a face-turning slap to fully pay back the debt from earlier. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying bloody night hour strikes. Zein unluckily becomes the prey being crazily hunted by countless aggressive folks. Right in the moment her life is hanging by a thread, two mysterious demon-slaying warriors suddenly drop from out of nowhere, clearing the obstacles and bailing her out in the nick of time. Grabbing the chance to escape, Zein runs at full speed, slipping through a secret gate and successfully hiding herself in the shadows. Zein was on her way back to the dorm. Suddenly, bloody night hit, and people everywhere rushed to destroy each other. A bunch of guys chased after Zein, and she had a really hard time escaping into the dorm in a super stressed state, breathing heavily, her mind still not stable after what she just went through. Right after that, Matt showed up, quickly held her and calmed her down, helping her slowly get her cool back. When the other friends ran over one by one, Mia breathed a sigh of relief seeing Zein still safe. Fanny couldn't hide her frustration, complaining that they were supposed to be a team, yet Zein always did everything by herself and recklessly threw herself into danger alone. Matt instantly spoke up to cut her off, saying that right now wasn't the right time to argue or point fingers at each other. However, Zein admitted that Fanny's words were right. She bowed her head to apologize, admitting her selfish actions had made everyone worry. Hearing that, Mia and Fanny couldn't hold back their feelings and immediately hugged her tight. In that moment, Zein got emotional and expressed that if this place was truly hell, just having her friends by her side was enough for her to face anything. After that, everyone asked Zein if Dave went with her, but she shook her head, letting them know he didn't go with her. Jerome looked surprised, not getting where Dave went. Mia instantly got worried, reminding them that he hadn't come back since class ended, so they needed to go find him ASAP. Fanny immediately shot that idea down, arguing that leaving the dorm right now was way too dangerous because bloody night had started, and going out now was no different from handing over their lives. Even so, Mia still insisted on going to find Dave, refusing to just sit still and wait. Matt also spoke up, pointing out that Dave would have a hard time saving himself in the dangerous situation outside right now. Because of that, he and Jerome decided to go outside and look for him, but Zein immediately stopped them, reminding them that they themselves admitted it was super dangerous outside. If they went out and something happened, the situation would get even worse for everybody. Fanny also agreed with Zein, saying they didn't want to keep worrying about two more people, and the best choice right now was to wait for Dave to come back on his own. That night, Mia and Zein couldn't catch a wink of sleep because they were too worried. Zein tossed and turned, wondering where Dave went, whether sitting and waiting like this was the right call, and more importantly, whether he was still alive or if something had happened to him. The worst-case scenario kept popping up in her head that if Dave fell into the hands of the Black Blood Gang, the consequences would be absolutely terrible. Thinking about that, Zein suddenly realized the worried feeling her friends had gone through when she sneaked out without telling anyone before, making her silently blame herself. Right at that moment, blood-curdling screams echoed from outside, making the vibe even scarier. Zein understood that to survive the night, she had to ignore those terrifying sounds and try to wait until morning. A bit later, Zein walked into the kitchen and suddenly noticed a shadow moving closer to the door. At first, she was totally freaked out, her heart pounding fast, but when she looked closely, she realized it was Dave. Zein instantly ran over to hold him up, both worried and rushing to check his condition. She noticed Dave was only lightly injured, but his exhausted look made her even more uneasy. Hearing the noise, the other friends quickly ran over too. Dave explained that after class he went out to get some fresh air, but didn't expect Bloody Night to start all of a sudden, forcing him to hide and wait until things cooled down to come back. This explanation made Zein feel like something wasn't adding up. She started getting suspicious thinking about how he chose to go out right before the most dangerous time. Even so, Dave didn't explain any further, just apologized and quietly went back to bed, leaving Zein with unanswered questions. Zein still felt uneasy. She shared her suspicions with the whole crew, not getting why Dave would go out exactly at such a dangerous time. Mia heard that and gently reminded her that now Zein truly understood the feeling of worrying about having a friend outside during Bloody Night, something she used to put everyone through. The next morning, everyone rushed to get ready for class. Mia kept rushing everyone to hurry up because she was scared of being late. Zein acted like she didn't care, thinking they could totally skip this class since it wasn't that long anyway. However, Mia reminded her there was a major test in that class today, making Zein suddenly realize she totally forgot about it. Right then, Matt showed up and said good morning to the squad. He was prepping food and reminded everyone that even though they were running late, they should still grab a bite before leaving. Fanny looked worried, stressing that if they failed the test, they couldn't make it into the top 10, meaning there was no chance to leave this scary place. Hearing those words, Zein suddenly realized how big of a deal the test was. The thought flashed through her mind that if they didn't get good scores, the whole crew would be stuck in this place. But right after that, she reassured herself that whether they made the top 10 or not, they would definitely find a way out of this place using their own strength and the group's teamwork. After that, everyone noticed Matt had quietly prepped the favorite dishes for Zein and the whole crew. The vibe got way happier when everyone gathered around together. Dave stepped up to tell everyone to clear the dining table, and Zein walked over to help him, standing next to him looking totally normal. But deep down it seemed like she was quietly thinking and suspecting something unclear. During the meal, Jerome dropped a complaint about the school's tests, thinking it seemed like nobody could pass them, and that surviving Bloody Night was way more important than taking exams. Dave showed he agreed with this thought, but Fanny clapped back, reminding them that if they failed, they shouldn't come crying back to the crew. Throughout the chat, Zein just quietly ate in silence, not joining much into the conversation. Matt noticed that silence, so he caringly asked if the food wasn't to her taste. Zein quickly reassured him that the food was super good, even praising him for being a great cook. That compliment made the vibe lighter, and everyone kept joking and talking to each other like normal. When they got to the university, the scene was totally haunting, blood scattered everywhere, while the students were busy cleaning up the mess from the night before. The second they walked in, Mr. DiMattalo called Zein over privately. Matt was about to tag along with her, but Zein reassured him that there was nothing to worry about, it was just secretary business. Mr. DiMattalo started asking the reason why she was absent today. Zein immediately asked him to let the whole group retake the test, but he bluntly said she didn't need a retake because he would handle her grades himself. This made Zein super happy, because she knew this news would definitely relieve her friends. After that, Mr. DiMattalo switched the topic to her secretary job. Zein admitted that talking to people in this environment was super tough, especially with folks who had different mindsets. She started suspecting his true motives for asking those questions. In response, Mr. DiMattalo reassured her not to worry about the grades, but at the same time reminded her that she had to remember what she needed to do to pay him back for that help. Zein bluntly confessed that until now she still hadn't found any info about the secret lab he mentioned before. She also showed her doubts about the existence of that place, because she had never heard anyone talk about it. Mr. DiMattalo replied that nobody here would easily spill anything, and her job was to keep focusing on working and watching everyone super closely. Hearing that, Zein started feeling scared. She was fully aware that if she got caught, the price to pay could be her life. Deep down, she only hoped to survive and leave this scary place with her friends. However, Mr. DiMattalo warned her that she had to be extremely careful, because everyone's safety depended on her. He also hinted that a massive storm was about to hit, and to survive she had to become ruthless, having to learn how to blend in with the student admin board like a true demon. That night, Zein sat alone in her room, quietly looking at the wounds on her arms. Mr. DiMattalo's words kept echoing in her head, making her fall into an internal struggle. She wondered if she actually had to turn into a demon to survive, and to be able to fight fair, whether she was forced to become even more dangerous than the very guy she was going up against. The next day, a few students who got injured during Bloody Night walked right up to Zein. They showed their disappointment, saying that before they thought she would become a second Samantha, someone who could step up to protect everybody, but in the end she did nothing at all. In their eyes, Zein was no different from the ruthless folks on the admin board. All just the same demons. Those accusations left Zein confused, not getting what was going on, so she just quietly walked away with a heavy heart. Right after that, Principal Violet and Francisco showed up on the stairs, standing in front of all the students like they were getting ready to announce something major. Francisco stepped up to remind Zein about not greeting them, forcing her to reluctantly bow her head as a formality. The two started their speech in front of the student crowd. They declared that today's gathering was to remember the late principal, but at the same time admitted that after many years, they finally broke free from his leadership that they thought was stupid. These words instantly made the vibe turn tense. A student in the crowd suddenly yelled out, claiming that the old principal didn't destroy himself, but they were the ones who took his life. Facing that accusation, Principal Violet didn't deny it at all, but bluntly admitted the truth. She coldly declared that they were the ones who ended him, then immediately ordered 2 members of the admin board to arrest the student who just spoke up. This move made Fanny furious. She loudly protested, arguing that the true evil culprits were the ones who deserved to be punished, not that student. Hearing that pushback, Principal Violet let out a chilling laugh and ordered them to take Fanny's life too. The vibe instantly got suffocating with danger right around the corner. But right at that deciding moment, Zein suddenly stepped up to the front, yelling loudly to stop everything. She declared that nobody was allowed to touch Fanny, because Fanny was under the protection of the council's laws, and anyone breaking that would have to face serious consequences. Principal Violet looked pissed, saying Zein was testing her patience and demanding she stop immediately. However, Zein didn't back down. She stated firmly that she wasn't saying anything wrong, and stressed that the only person with the power to make punishment decisions in this school was Craig. As the school's secretary, she had the right to object to the principal's orders. Hearing that, Principal Violet turned to Craig, demanding he punish Zein for her defiant behavior. But Craig had a reaction totally opposite to her expectations. He calmly clapped his hands, showing he praised Zein and confirming she was totally right. According to him, Zein didn't deserve to be punished, but on the contrary deserved a reward, because she was the only one who clearly understood that true power rested in his hands. After that, Craig turned to Francisco, asking if he was saying anything wrong. Francisco immediately confirmed that what Craig said was totally correct, making the situation even more tense and unpredictable. Afterwards, the admin board dropped another announcement that threw all the students into a panic. They announced Bloody Week, a time period lasting a full week where anyone could attack anybody else at any time without being stopped. The principal coldly declared that during that week, half of the students in the school would lose their lives. Hearing these words, all the students fell into a state of pure terror, nobody able to keep their cool. That night, when the whole crew gathered in the dorm, Mia stepped up to ask Fanny about her feelings after everything that happened. Fanny admitted she felt super scared, but at the same time felt a weird sense of satisfaction because deep down she still had a lot of pent-up anger that hadn't been let out. Hearing that, Zein looked confused and asked the reason why Fanny acted so recklessly earlier. Fanny didn't show any regrets, but instead thought that no matter what happened, the most important thing was that everyone was still together. At this point, Jerome winked and joked around, praising Fanny for being so brave, and even joking that his feelings for her seemed to have leveled up. That line made the whole group burst out laughing, somewhat cooling down the tense vibe. However, Fanny still hadn't cooled her anger, repeating that she almost lost her life if Zein hadn't stepped up in time to protect her. Dave then turned to ask Zein about the source of those rules she used to protect Fanny. Zein explained she had read through the admin board's rulebook, and from there found out that the real power to punish was solely in Craig's hands. After that, she added the news that Mr. DiMattalo promised to handle the grades for the whole crew. But what surprised her was that none of them looked happy about this news. When seeing that unusually silent reaction, Zein couldn't help but wonder and asked why. Matt was the one to speak up and answer, saying the whole group knew Zein was holding some major secrets about this school, and also understood that because of those secrets, she might never be able to leave this place again. Hearing that, Zein was totally shocked and asked how they knew about that. Jerome calmly explained that since they were friends, they could spot the things Zein was trying to hide. Not stopping there, Jerome also spilled that they even knew about Zein setting a trap for Mr. Quizon. In front of everyone's understanding, Fanny spoke up to confirm that if they couldn't escape this place, at least they would still stick together. Those words made Zein even more determined, silently promising herself that she wouldn't let a single one of them lose their life. Afterwards, on the way to class, Zein was suddenly bumped into by a girl, and then this person immediately ran away. Feeling like something was off, Zein chased after that girl. When she caught up, she realized the girl was sobbing hard and carrying a look of total despair. This person blamed Zein, saying she had the chance to do so many things but didn't act, and because of that, in the girl's eyes, Zein was just a coward. Zein tried to explain that she was just a secretary, having no power to change things. However, the girl instantly clapped back, claiming that there was someone who did those things before, and she used to think Zein would become a second Samantha. Those constant comparisons made Zein even more confused. She instantly asked who Samantha was and why everyone kept constantly dropping that name, even suspecting that Samantha used to be a secretary just like her. At this point, the girl turned around, exposing her severely wrecked body, which absolutely terrified Zein. The girl revealed that the admin board had been taking students to do body experiments on them, aiming to create a special liquid to serve their goals. Hearing this, Zein immediately asked about the location of the secret lab. However, the girl didn't answer but just warned that if Zein didn't want to end up in a tragic state like her, she better stay out of their way. After saying that, the girl ran away in a panic, leaving Zein standing there frozen. Right then, Nikki suddenly popped up and warned Zein to stay away from Mr. DiMattalo. However, Zein didn't want to hear any more warnings. She just pushed Nikki away and walked off, her head totally flooded with chaotic thoughts. Afterwards, Zein got punished to clean up in the cafeteria. While she was working, Craig suddenly showed up and praised her performance from earlier, while also reminding her not to cause any more trouble for him. Zein acted like she didn't care about those words, making Craig curious and asking what was going on with her. Zein just gave a brush-off answer, saying she felt a bit tired. Seeing that attitude, Craig surprisingly stepped up to help her clean, which completely shocked Zein. Deep down, she kept wondering why he was acting so weird and out of character like that. Feeling the situation getting awkward, Zein quickly told him to stop, because she didn't want people getting the wrong idea that she was looking down on him. Craig heard that and asked if she was the type of person who always cared too much about what other people said. Zein admitted she just wanted to avoid drama. Craig reassured her that nothing would happen, but still reminded her to always be careful. After that, he dropped his voice in a serious tone, saying this was an order from the president, forcing her to answer him honestly. He also bluntly admitted that she could become his weak spot, then handed her a gift box. Zein was totally stunned by that unexpected move. After getting her cool back, She thanked him and said she had to head back to the dorm, while reminding him that he should also get back to the office before Bloody Night started. Craig asked back if she was worrying about him, but Zein instantly denied it, acting cold and saying that if something happened to him, it was none of her business. Craig just laughed, confirming he knew how to protect himself and still had a lot of things he wanted to do for her. After that, Zein headed back to the dorm. Mia saw her back earlier than expected, so she asked why. Zein explained that someone helped her finish her punishment faster. When finding out that person was Craig, Fanny instantly teased her, saying the two of them looked super close. Zein quickly clapped back, claiming they couldn't even be called friends yet. Right at that moment, Matt suddenly looked visibly annoyed. He stood up and left to get some water, looking pissed off, which left Zein totally surprised. The rest of the friends quickly noticed Matt's unusual reaction and joked that he seemed to be jealous. Not long after, Matt came back and showed everyone the weapons he had prepared for self-defense during Bloody Week. Seeing those weapons, Zein was super shocked and protested, arguing that they couldn't turn themselves into people who took others' lives. However, the rest of them thought that was the only way to survive this terrifying week and find a chance to leave this scary place. The next day on campus, Zein saw with her own eyes two girls charging in to attack each other fiercely. She instantly planned to run over and break it up, but Matt held her back and reminded her she couldn't save everyone. Right in front of Zein's eyes, one of the two girls collapsed and lost her life. That scene made her feel extremely angry and heartbroken, but in the end, she could only turn around and walk away feeling helpless. That night, when returning to her room, Zein remembered the gift box Craig had given her. She slowly opened it up and found out that inside was a razor-sharp knife. At the same time, outside the dorm, chaotic noises started echoing as students rushed to attack each other during Bloody Week. Standing in front of that chaotic and brutal scene, Zein felt pure terror, her mind a total mess because she didn't know what she should do to keep surviving in this hell.